Hi, it's Camille Ross. Together with my group mates Emmanuel Napili and Casey Villajego, we are here to discuss fallacies. What is logical fallacy? It's the use of invalid or otherwise faulty reasoning or wrong moves in the construction of an argument. Here are the types of fallacies. First we have is the ad hominem, attacking the person making the argument, rather than argument itself when the attack on the person is completely irrelevant to the argument the person is making. Example, Tony wants us to believe that the origin of life was an accident. Tony is a godless sub who has spent more time in jail than in church. So the only information we should consider from him is the best way to make license plate. Explanation. Tony may be a godless sub, perhaps he did spend more time in the joint than in church. But all this irrelevant to his argument or truth of his claim as to be the origin of life. Strawman's fallacy. Substituting a person's actual position or argument with a distorted, exaggerated, or mispresented version of the position of the argument. Example,
What is your view on the Christian God?
I don't believe in any gods, including the Christian one.
So you think that we here by accident, and all this design in nature is pure chance, and the universe just created itself?
You got it all. That from me, stating that I just don't believe in any gods. Appeal to ignorance. The assumption of a conclusion or fact based primarily on lack of evidence to contrary, usually best described by absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Example, although we have proven that the moon is not made of spare ribs, we have not proven that its core cannot be filled with them. Therefore, the moon's core is filled with spare ribs. Explanation. There is an infinity of things we cannot prove. The moon being filled with spare ribs is one of them. Now, you might expect that any reasonable person would know that the moon can't be filled with spare ribs, but you would be expecting too much. People make wild claims and get away with them simply on the fact that the converse cannot otherwise be proven. False dilemma. When only two choices are presented, yet more exist. Example, I thought you were a good person, but you weren't at church today. Explanation. The assumption here is that if one doesn't attend church, one must be bad. Of course, good people exist who don't go to church, and good church-going people could have had really good reason not to be in church, like a hangover from a swingers gathering the night before.
Circular argument. A type of reasoning in which the proposition is supported by the premises, which is supported by the proposition. Creating a circle in reasoning where no useful information is being shared. This fallacy is often quite humorous. Logical form. X is true because of Y. Y is true because of X.
What are these electrolytes? Do you even know?
They are what they use to make Brando.
But why do they use them to make Brando?
Because Brando's got electrolytes. Explanation. These examples from a favorite movie of mine, Idiocracy, where Private Joe Bowers is dealing with a bunch of not very smart guys from the future. Joe is not getting any useful information about electrolytes, no matter how hard he tries. Accent fallacy. When the meaning of a word, sentence, or entire idea is changed by where the accent falls. Example, in the movie, My Cousin Vinny, Ralph Macchio's character, Bill was interrogated for suspected murder. When the police officer asked him, "When did you shoot the clerk?" Bill replies in shock, "I shot the clerk! I shot the clerk!" Later in the film, the police officer reads Bill's statement as a confession in court. Then he said, "I shot the clerk! I shot the clerk!" Explanation. In the movie, It appeared that he police officer did understand Bill's question as a confession, so it did not appear to be a fallacious tactic of the police officer, rather a failure of critical thought, perhaps due to a strong confirmation bias. Begging the question: any form of argument where the conclusion is assumed in one of the premises. Many people use the phrase begging the question incorrectly when they use it to mean prompts one to ask the question. That is not the correct usage. Begging the question is a form of circular reasoning. Logical form. Claim X assumes X is true. Therefore, claim X is true. Example: paranormal activity is real because I have experienced what can only be described as paranormal activity. Explanation: the claim, paranormal activity is real, is supported by the premise, I have experienced what can only be described as paranormal activity. The premise presupposes or assumes that the claim, paranormal activity is real, is already true. Fallacy of division. Inferring that something is true or one or more of the parts from the fact that it is true of the whole. This is the opposite of the fallacy of composition. Logical form. A is part of B. B has property X. Therefore, A has property X. Example: his house is about half the size of most houses in the neighborhood. Therefore, his doors must all be about 3.5 feet high. Explanation: the size of one's house almost certainly does not mean that doors will be smaller, especially with the same proposition. The size of the whole is not directly related to the size of every part of the house.